Today we're going to look at chapter 10 of the Screwtape letters. And Wormwood's patient has made friends with non-Christian people, and Screwtape and Wormwood are very happy about this fact. These people are rich, they're smart, and they're very superficial, and they are skeptical about all things. The Bible, of course, speaks a lot about friendship and who we make friends with. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Proverbs 12:26 says, "The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray." Screwtape tells his nephew that he needs to try very hard to get his patient to spend as much time as possible with these new friends he has made. He asks Wormwood, "Did your patient act as if he was the same type of person as his new friends?" Humans have a way of acting like they belong in various groups and make it seem like they agree with all aspects of the other group's thoughts. This is very good for us. Screwtape is saying that many humans, when they're with various types of people, will act like they're like those people, even though it might not be true. And even if the people are making statements that do not agree with their beliefs, they will act and laugh about them as if they also believe the same things. Once they show themselves to be the same type of person, they no longer have the courage to speak out and to tell them that they do not believe in the same things. This will keep them quiet about their faith and turn them around and actually make them into hypocrites. Your patient will soon realize that none of his beliefs line up with the beliefs of his new friends, but this does not matter as long as you can keep him quiet about it. Shame will help you to keep him quiet. Pride will also help you to keep him quiet, and his vanity will help you. As long as you postpone his acknowledgement that he does not believe as they do, he will be in a false position. He will be silent when he ought to speak up, and he will laugh when he ought to keep silent. This will force him to assume all sorts of cynical and skeptical attitudes which are not really his. But if you allow him to continue doing this, they may become his. All mortals tend to turn into the things they are pretending to be. Screwtape is saying try to keep him with these friends as long as possible without telling them who he really is and what he really believes. And eventually, as he acts like them, he might become like them as well. Screwtape says, fortunately, in the sermons we hear nowadays in churches, we do not hear often about keeping away from the world and keeping away from certain types of people. Warnings about vanity and the choice of friends were talked about way more in the past, but much less in the present. Make sure that if your patient hears these types of sermons, that he would call them and describe them as Puritanism. The value we have attached to this world and the way we have used it against good teaching is one of the really solid triumphs of the last 100 years. By it we have destroyed many Christians and kept them from living temperate lives and chaste lives. So he's saying when he hears this type of sermon, when he hears a sermon that is really good for him, try to make him believe that it is Puritanism, it is just zealous, and it is not true Christianity, and that will keep him from acting on it and believing in it. Outside the book, this is just a thought of my own. The word doctrine has very much become a word in that way. The word doctrine has become a bad word in a lot of the fastest growing churches in the West. And Satan has very much used this word as something bad, and doctrine is definitely not something bad. We are to watch our doctrine closely. Doctrine is extremely important. But in these churches, doctrine is used as a bad word. It's a horrible thing. We no longer like doctrine. We do not want doctrine. And they're using it as something bad. This is very much a game that Satan is playing. And C.S. Lewis is pointing out that he has played that game with Puritanism. If a message is too good, then label it as just being Puritanism and just too zealous for normal Christians. If you can allow your patient to act differently with his friends, he will become a hypocrite. If you are good, you can actually make him enjoy this life of hypocrisy. You can give him a sort of pride in having the knowledge and friendship with the world that other Christians could not possibly understand. He can likewise enjoy the blaspheme of his friends and look down on them for having a better understanding of spiritual things. You understand what I'm saying? He will start seeing himself as the complete, well-rounded, all-understanding person with such complexity and wisdom that most would not understand. In this way, instead of feeling shame, he will be treacherous towards a lot of people. So Screwtape is saying here, make him start liking this two-sided life. Make him think himself above his friends who do not believe in Christ, and make him feel that he's above Christians who do not understand and cannot mix with the world as he does. If this does not work, you can try to persuade him that he is doing these people good by attending their parties and drinking with them. Make him think that to cease to be with them would be priggish and intolerant and Puritan. So if that doesn't work, then make him think that he is really reaching out to them, and that he could really change them by being and attending their parties. And if he didn't go, he would become a priggish and intolerant Christian. The Bible teaches us to be honest about who we are. It is true that Paul says that we should be all things to all men, but not to the point of being a different person. It is only to the things that we can change without changing who we really are. So smaller things in the way we live. We have an example where Peter was living a double standard. He was not acting the same at all times, and he was confronted by Paul on this. Galatians 2:11-13, when Peter came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. For before certain men came from James, he used to eat with the Gentiles. But when they arrived, he began to draw back and separate himself from the Gentiles because he was afraid of those who belonged to the circumcision group. The other Jews joined him in his hypocrisy, so that by their hypocrisy even Barnabas was led astray. There is a time where we do need to comply with other people's belief in order to win them over. We saw that a few weeks ago, where Paul actually had Timothy circumcised in order to be able to outreach among the Jews and the circumcised people. But here it's a complete different story. We have the hypocrisy of Peter, who was acting a certain way in front of certain people, and then in a certain way in front of other people. He was truly being the hypocrite. It wasn't in order to win anyone over. It was to hide the fact that he truly believed that it didn't matter if someone was circumcised or not. So basically, in this chapter, we realize that who we make friends with is extremely important. Now, we can have friends among the non-Christians for sure, but how close can we actually get to them? We should be friends to them in order to reach out to them. But we should definitely always have that line clear that we are not like them, that we believe something different, and that we live different lives. We cannot make that line blurred to the point where we no longer can speak out and they truly believe that we are like them, and we can no longer share the gospel with them. And this is the trap of Satan. This is the trap that Screwtape is teaching his nephew. Try to make him act like he is one of them, one of the world. And so we should definitely be friends with the world, but we should not act like we were one with the world. This is the lesson we hear in chapter 10.